Once I get the notification that it's recording, we'll get started. All right, there we go. All right, so this is going to be quick pass through the Euro, Pound, Dollar, CAD, and NASDAQ. Excuse me. If you have questions along the way, I can see the chat bubble. So, or I can expand the chat bubble. So if you have questions along the way, either post into chat or unmute yourself and ask away. I don't really care if you talk over me. So if that's what it takes to get me to answer a question, then by all means. Let us start with the Euro Pound. Excuse me. Sorry. So I will be. I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna try and stick immediate here, so I'm not gonna do too. There's a lot of higher time frame stuff that we have out already. So I'm gonna try and stick more immediate, and that way we have stuff that could potentially be useful tonight or over the next couple hours. So as always, I'm just going to go through and do the same old process that I do every single time. Support and resistance, all the major turning points, supply and demand, change control, trend, fibs, and then go from there. That was one of those moments where I muted myself. I caught it that time. Let's see, we'll run probably until about 2. So if I finish up early, we can talk through some questions. But again, don't be afraid to just ask them as we're running through this. And I'm not the best at narrating while I'm doing this stuff. I'll try, but I'm not the best at being able to talk through exactly what it is that I'm doing as I'm doing it. It's a little bit of a challenge. Like I said, I'll try, but no promises. With this one, I'll probably go down to the hourly, just because it's a little bit, you can see that it's really in a congested area, so I'll probably go down to the hourly here in a minute, just to get a sense for some better opportunity, because right here, if we were to leave it, there's not much. You can see it's really congested, so let's try the hourly and see if we can't catch some more immediate stuff. Oh, sorry, before I did that, before I dropped down to the hourly, just looking at the overall, like, really quick structure on the 4 hour, more specifically in this kind of range that we're currently sitting in. Actually, I missed a zone down at the bottom. Are there any questions before we jump into the hourly? Really more targeted towards this area that we're currently in. So pull up my chat bubble. I don't see anything. Take a mental image. Think about it. I'm going to drop down to the hourly in the interest of time. But if you think of anything, then by all means, let me know. I will change. Let's see. What color is... And I'm going to make that a zone. Yeah, like I said, I'm bad at narrating as I'm doing this stuff, especially while I'm building out structure for the first time. So this is interesting. We filled on our way back up. we filled this 50% coming out of this trend line retest, which great. That worked out well. I'm not going to necessarily, I don't think I'm going to leave that because if we do retest it, there's not much around here that I like. So I'm not going to leave that on there. Because just above it, kind of right at this trend line cross here, there's a lot more to like. And if we were to map out this move, while it's not super clean, you can see that it fills the 50 better than the 61.8. Front runs the 61.8 by like 2 pips. But we do build out a nice little zone right here. So where's my drawing tools? I hope this doesn't come up black. All right, it's red. Cool. Get rid of that. So if we can kind of like slow drift up and fill somewhere, really anywhere in this vicinity, you know, maybe we kind of dive back down a little first or flatten before we jump up. If we can fill up there, then we're going to be sitting at a decision point. We're either going to, you know, we have the opportunity to fall through, or there's a 78.6 and the negative 61.8 up above. So it's really a decision point time when you get here. It's either going to do that, or it's going to drift above, retest right around here, and then we have our target to the upside, target 1 and target 2. And obviously, if we fill here and then start to fall out of it, determining structure is dependent on your style, as it usually is, as it always is. These are not charts that are meant to be taken verbatim, but this would be a good first target, or at least a trail point. So if we test here and fall back down, here's a good run to capitalize on. And then as we break through, if we break through, more targets to the downside, retesting that fib structure, especially since we wouldn't have broken that 61.8 to the upside. Let's see. That's okay. That question come through. Okay, I'm just gonna put this out there. If you guys have to drop, or if you have to go, you can by all means just do it. You don't have to let me know, because the chat window is really small, and so I'd rather leave the chat window that I'm seeing open for questions that are coming through, so it doesn't get bogged down. But you guys don't have to let me know if you need a drop. You're not obligated to be here. So you can just, by all means, just go do it. Let's see. And then if we do, let's see, to get, I don't do this often, but if we do on a lower time frame, let's see, well, I want to zoom out. There we go. On a lower time frame, if we do hold here again and we start to fall down, we've got nice targets to the downside in terms of looking long. This 61.8 is kind of in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, there's a little bit of structure here. It's not fully in the middle of nowhere, but we've already tested here a couple of times. So if we do fall down a little lower, I probably wouldn't want to look long there. I would probably, if we can go down a little bit, and it's really kind of messy now, and that's why I don't typically do it on the lower time frames. Change all the colors so they match. All right, so if we do fall down a little bit from here, then really I have drawing tools. What am I doing? The long opportunities sit either here, excuse me, or here, or something like that, coming out of the supply zone, demand zone, excuse me. Just grab some water. Coming out of that demand zone, or dipping down to complete those second profit targets and fill the low. Sorry, question came through. When you say that 61.8 could be resistance to a short, or price could break through and then retest as it and it ends up as support to that long side, how exactly do you decide on whether to take a short or wait for the breakthrough to take that long? It's just price action in the moment and what in your plan. There's not really no. I think this is kind of a misconception that because really with any successful trader, I think it's a misconception that any successful trader can tell you definitively one way or the other whether it's going to go in a certain direction, or there's some magic formula that they have that determines whether it goes in one direction. There's absolutely not. I take educated. It's an educated guess every time that, like, if price moves up here very quickly, right? Like if price spikes up here very quickly, if just skyrockets up here, logic says don't jump in front of that. Wait for it to break above, come back, retest, and then go long. If price drifts and moves up kind of slow like that and flattens and takes its time getting there, you can see that maybe along the way it trickles along this trend line. That might signal a little bit more to you that this it's good for a short. Maybe it's not you get in right at the touch, but instead you wait for some confirmation coming out of it, right? So maybe we get on the lower time frames, if that's your style, it dips, and you look for an entry right here, kind of on a lower high. I wouldn't recommend a 1 minute, but maybe like a 15-minute, 30-minute chart. You get some of that. You get a dip out of that level, and then a quick little spike back up. But I don't, as you can see, I don't use any overbought, oversold indicators. I don't use any indicators. So I'm not sitting here waiting for something to roll over and momentum to signify that it's ready to turn over. There's no quote unquote signal that I have that tells me when to get in. It's just judging price action. It's chart time. It's getting a sense for how price is moving. But there's no real formula or special sauce behind it that I have that nobody else has, or that successful traders have that they're not sharing with anybody else. It's really just chart time, exposure, and reading price action and determining what works best for you. It also depends on your vehicle. It also depends on what vehicle you're trading, right? Where for spot forex, maybe you don't need the most precise entry here, and you wait for some confirmation for price to push out of it. But if you're trading Nadex, then precision matters. So you enter right at the test here. Maybe you enter like an out of the money strike right here, or a slightly out of the money strike, so that you're capturing price as it's moving up. And it's an aggressive entry, but it's okay because you'll be able to take profit even on just a quick spike down to fill that level. So it's there's a lot of factors in determining it, and it really, unfortunately, the answer boils down to how you decide to enter. 100% depends on what you're trading and what your style is and what your comfort level is. So it's very individualistic, and that's why we don't offer traditional signals and never will, because everybody is so drastically different in their trading that you don't want to try and make everybody trade the same way. So I hope that helps. It gives you a little insight and maybe helps you self-discover a little bit. But really what I can recommend is chart time and exposure, and just figuring in your own trading style what works for you. And I've seen Tom take some entries that I would never take, but it works out fantastically for him. I've seen Dan take entries that I would never take that work out great for him. And I'm sure that I take entries that they would never take, and it works out for me. It's all 100% deterministic based off of your own individual style. Wow, that ate up more time than I thought it did. That chart overall, not answering questions. I'm happy to answer questions, but man, I didn't realize that first chart was going to take 15 minutes. All right, dollar CAD. Again, sticking with the 4-hour start. Same. Aha, I saved you from a cough. I caught myself. Same overall process. Identify on the 4-hour. Support resistance, supply and demand, change control. Move forward from there. And sticking with what's immediate and what matters. Looks like a pretty good change control zone. Probably pull it down a little. Did I pull it down too far? No. Didn't save you that time, sorry. Saw an article, this is completely irrelevant, and it's just because of my own, this is a poor me story, but I saw an article that said that like cold and flu season ramped back up and it's just going nuts right now, especially in the Northeast where I live, and I have been sick for like 3 straight weeks, just various different things, whether it's a lingering cough or the full-out flu. It has been miserable. And I am ready for spring to finally just come. Let's see, that's right in the middle of price action. I don't love that as a super strong piece of structure. Let's see. Also, bear with me. It is finally like spring out, so or at least here it's like 60 degrees. So I have all my doors and windows open, and there's like 30 people that just got to our complex for a party, and like so it's kind of loud right now. So if you can hear any of that, I apologize. Let's see. Okay, so we filled the 50% already. There's decent short-term structure up there at the 61.8, but it's nothing that I really anticipate. So looking at price here in the short term, this is strictly short term. Where does that line up? Okay, so fib structure on this overall bull move right here is held pretty well. We've held the 50, we've held the 50. You can see that the 61.8 lines up really well with kind of these lows here. It's not, let's see, we're on the 4-hour. It's not change control, but it's not true supply or demand. This is what just really, this is just a zone, if I can be unclear about something. This is just a zone in general. I'm not going to mark it off because this right here does a really good job of highlighting kind of that pivot point within that zone. I know I just changed it to be light, but I'm going to change it so it stands out a little bit. So just when you're rewatching this, this signifies a zone and kind of a pivot point right in the middle of everything. You could see that we're, after filling that 50, there's a good chance that that fills and we have a decision point coming somewhere right around here. Let's see if we can add a little more confidence because we held here right at resistance. Right, so we held there and the ABCD sits a little higher. So the ABCD right there. And I'm actually going to put that fib back on because it is validated. It's holding nicely and I don't need that 78.6. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep it so that it's not ridiculously overcomplicated. Is that 78.6? Yeah, I don't need to keep that one either. Just going to keep the lower fibs here because that's kind of right around structure, right in the middle of this change control zone. So it just upon first pass and just looking at price here, we're testing the 50 off of this big bull run up. The 61.8 sits right in this great zone. I love this zone. I love everything about this. I love everything about this zone right here. Could probably even make it smaller. This is really where the meat of that zone is. So if we can, I have a drawing tool button. I didn't know that. I don't have to keep expanding it. So if we can just come down here, then I would be confident in starting to look for some longs, potentially quick spike out, targeting the change control zone again, and then seeing where we go from there. Maybe we start to follow the ladder back up to fill that 50 again off of this this bearish fib structure, or we blow straight through these fibs here and come back up and retest right around here, and then we have some decisions to make about longs, right? So if we we blow through this fib structure and start pushing upward, we'd have to see what kind of creates itself in terms of structure, right? We've got other short-term structure here, so they could act as support if we break through those. Clearly, they didn't in the past, but that can change, right? There's no definite. So we'd have to see what the fib structure looks like if we can break above this to the upside. But we do have some targets to both sides. It's a little sticking. This is sticking more on the higher time frame, so we're sticking more on the 4 hour. It kind of lends itself to. Sorry, caught myself again. Kind of lends itself to some better trading and some better movement on the 4 hour than it did on the hourly, on the 4 hour with this one here. So before we move on to, I'm not going to drop down to the hourly on this one. Before we move on to the NASDAQ, is there any questions around the dollar CAD? I see nothing, I hear nothing. So I'm going to assume that's good. All right, we'll move on to the NASDAQ. NASDAQ, the indices have been on a tear. So we're going to do similar stuff. Why do I already have that there? I thought I cleared all my drawings off of this stuff. That's all right, it matters. It's forcing it. And let's see. This is starting to get way far back, so we're not gonna worry about that. Nice zone up top. And there's the last break. Did we fill that? We did. Did we fill profit targets? We did. What does this look like on the heavy trend? 38.2 is perfect. So that gives us more targets to the upside. Let's see, where's the last jumping off point? Hold that just in case. This we're testing currently. I'm going to leave this here just as darkened a little bit just because, well, actually, what does that one look like? That one's better. And I'm still going to leave this darkened because of the bull strength. I don't want to signify that that channel top could be anything super significant until we get some proven movement off of it. I don't want to use this as a top yet just because we haven't filled. Let's see, that was front run. Yeah, I don't want to use this as a move to consider yet because we haven't really proven that this is going to hold as a short-term top and fall back down. So I don't want to prepare for any bearish runs. Really what I'm looking forward to is retesting these highs. I'm really hopeful that we could maybe get some movement to kind of drift down a little bit and then turn over again. So maybe we get like a day of just bullish rest to let some of those positions come off, and then this might create kind of like a channel within here, and with that we could kind of turn over, maybe come back and roll a little bit and then come up and retest right here. Then we'd be left with some interesting decisions if the bulls can kind of like try and illustrate what I'm talking about. Come up, do something like that. Then maybe we break down below this, and now we can start looking for some channel fills. Again, this is all hypothetical potential paths. This isn't anything to take as, you know, strict, rigid trading. You can clearly see that we've got second profit targets to the upside. We have no structure up there, so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Sorry. Really interesting to see what happens if we can get that turnover, if we can get a little bit of a fill. I wonder if there's anything lower we can look for. I don't love this. It's too close. There's not enough separation. But I wonder this. There's not. Yeah, there's not much additionally unless we go all the way down here, which kind of works. If we were to plot this out, this kind of works because that's right at the gap level that we still haven't filled. So maybe, you know, maybe instead of getting that slow rollout like we had originally talked about, we can get some sharper movement down, right? Maybe the next day is just a dump. The next couple of days is just a dump. And if that's the case, if it's just a dump, right, we'll probably spike past this and fill this gap, right? If we instead of doing this and roll up to those highs, if we just do that, if we do this and we break below this trend line here, I would be really cautious trying to sell a retest, because what I imagine it would look like would be a quick wick down, and we're so close to that structure to the upside. Don't underestimate the power of greed. Anybody who's long coming out of these levels is more than likely targeting these levels. So at some point, just like the gap, at some point this will probably fill. I would not try and short until we can, like, if we spike down and you just try and short like this retest right here, that's dangerous. But if we get down and then start to drift and do that, and you know, I still probably wouldn't look to short right here, at least not in the long term. If we can do that and start to drift back down, then I would more than likely fib this move. Sorry, that's terrible. But really fib that move and try and plot this out as a retracement. See what that would look like. And then give ourselves that heavy trending. Yeah, so sorry, now it's really messy and it's probably straining your eyes, and I apologize for that, but there's no better way to really do this. So I would potentially consider something like that where we look long there, especially if it holds here. Like if we can do something like that, that's encouraging. And then look long to target the upside levels. But I would snap out of that. I would be really hesitant to try and short anything substantially until we fill those levels, at least for the long term. And I could be very wrong. We could really come with some bearish strength out of these levels, retest here, show some more bearish strength, break this trend line. Like, there's bearish strength to be had. I just would really like to see a test of these all-time highs and then make a decision from there. I know not a lot of people like trading all-time highs. I do. I like those decisions. So I would be really interested to see what happens there. So we kind of covered the full spectrum. We did an hourly, we did a 4-hour, and now we've done a daily, higher time frame, kind of more larger scale view. I think I made up for the time, right? I think I made up for the time pretty well. It's only 3 minutes over, so I'll pause for some questions if there are any. I'm not going to do other charts just because if I get started on another chart, then it's going to drive this longer, and I've got a meeting that I need to jump on around 2:15, 2:30ish, so I need to go prepare for that. But I'm happy to stay on for like another 5-10 minutes and kind of discuss any questions that are lingering. Are there questions on any of the charts we went over? Are there any questions on trading in general? Does anybody want to rub in the fact that it wasn't snowing and 30 degrees when I woke up this morning? Or that they haven't had some form of sickness for 3 weeks? Side note, I'm going to be closing out the week at one of our customers. So I don't think it should be an issue in terms of trading and posting because the customer is NASDAQ. So going to be down with the folks at NASDAQ. So I don't think there should be any break in the normal schedule. Most of my stuff's like super early or super late. So I don't see any questions coming through. If I like trade, oh yeah, so I mentioned that I like trading all-time highs, and curious as to elaborate a little more as to why past success. It's a little bit of everything. I like I like the volume that can occur when greed starts to really take shape. As a reactive trader and someone who's not trying to predict but instead just ride waves, you really see the heavy trending and high-to-high fibs come to fruition a lot when you're trading all-time highs, and it's I hate there's no better way to say this, and I promise it's not the way it's going to come out. There's no better, because I don't trade with an ego. I don't carry an ego. I can learn anything from anyone. I will always stick by that. But there's no better massaging of your ego, especially your trading ego, than when levels that you have that no one else has fill and react. And high to high fibs have always been that for me in the all-time high world. and creating some of these kind of trend channels that just formulate themselves and see them fill over time. It's just that I have taken a lot of swing positions to pretty precise targets, and I've never really been jaded or burned by all-time highs because I've traded super cautiously, and I've done well with it. But more than that, it's seeing everything that I've taught myself over the years come to fruition and all take shape all in one area when in theory it shouldn't, because there's no structure. So that's kind of why, I guess. Just because it's satisfaction and validation that the stuff I've worked so hard to develop and the skills that I've worked to develop actually work, especially when all bets are off and they really shouldn't. But I also don't trade it recklessly. I don't trade all-time highs thinking that just like I never trade in general thinking that I know exactly what's going to happen. I always have plans for both directions. I always have outs. I always have tight stops. So I think that's also partially why. Any other questions? Let's see. Say tight stops, but I feel like I see trades of yours go way and then retrace quite a ways, like 10, 20, or 30 points back against you and keep the full position. How do you determine when price is reversed and won't reach your targets? I determine that price is reversed and won't reach my targets when I get stopped out. I trade based off of extensions and targets heavily, and I leverage those a lot. You have to keep in mind that I have multiple accounts in terms of trading. And when you say 20, 30, 10, 20, 30 or more points, that kind of signifies to me that you're talking about futures. When I'm swing trading futures in let's say it's the Dow, right? On a 200 to 300 point swing trade, 10 to 20 points is not a significant retracement. On an intraday trade, absolutely. But over the course of like a week and a half, no. It's not really something super significant. So I'm really, when I'm swing trading, I'm comfortably in profit. I've generally got a couple of fibs, some short term, some long term, and I'm manipulating my stop loss, my trailing stop based off of short term fibs first, and then as price progresses up, like I guess the best way to put it is I've got a first target that I'll be happy walking away from the trade with, and then everything from there is just replanning and essentially a new trade, even though it's the same position. So a lot of those trades that I take that retrace, yeah, they retrace, but I've already hit my initial profit target and I'm comfortable just letting the rest ride and then replanning and finding another precise exit. And if we get to that precise exit and I see something higher time frame that's sitting, close enough up above, I'm still comfortable holding on. It's just trail the stop again and let it roll. But I also have intraday positions that I'm taking against that swing position based off of short-term structure. So I'm not really sacrificing anything by a retracement back down. Let's see, I have a buy zone on UCAD, a little below the zone you have. Got it from the previous run up. I don't really see a question there. Do you use trailing stops or do you trail by moving your stops manually? I trail by moving my stops manually. I do not. I work on computers all day. I'm a software engineer. I write automation for a lot of our products. I do not rely on a computer program to do anything for me, especially when it comes to my money and my trades. I I do everything manually. Sorry. It's annoying me as much as it's annoying you. What else we got? I'll stay on until 2:15. Then I gotta go prepare for another meeting. That means I enter and exit manually as well. I never use pending orders. Yes, it's always at the market price. Then yes, that means that when you see it at when you see a trade that the market price was somewhere at like 2:30 in the morning, I was up taking that trade at 2:30 in the morning. I get very little sleep. Probably why I'm sick right now. Two minutes. Get them in while you can. Or just send them to me afterwards. How often do I lose a trade, and is it always just a stop out? I'd say that I'll break it down to like whole numbers, maybe. Let's say out of 10 trades, right? Let's say I take 10 trades in a week, which would be a slow week. Let's say I take 10 trades in a week. I'd say probably on average, like I usually open with a pretty tight stop. So I guess technically, I mean, I think what you meant was how often do I lose a trade, and is it always just a stop out in term? Maybe I don't understand that question. Are you asking like if I lose a trade, is it always just a stop out in terms of getting a trailing stop hit? Because that would still be winning the trade. Um, I don't ever trade without a stop loss. So yes, if I lose a trade, it's always a stop out. I'm not sure if you're asking like a margin call or something, or um, but essentially, I open every trade with a very tight stop loss. And so I'd say that maybe out of those 10, 10 trades, 2 get truly stopped out. I trail my stop very quickly, so I'd say that maybe like another 1 gets stopped out at break even, or let's say another 2 get stopped out at break even, and then the rest are generally winners. I don't know. It's really tough to quantify because every week's different. There's no real running average. But I lose just like everybody else. It's just I manage my risk differently, or I manage my risk appropriately. Are there times of the day, night where you find you make most of your trades? No, it's just when the setup fills. I think for the most part, and I can't equate it to anything in terms of market conditions, but I operate the best early in the morning, and it's just the same with work. I'm the most productive between the hours of like when I get to work around 6, and then like I say that like that's 6 a.m. to 8:30ish a.m. I'm the most productive and what I think is my sharpest. So I generally am pretty quick and am able to establish kind of like daily, at least intraday positions early, like right around 6 to 8:30. But for the rest of it, like No, I take trades pretty much whenever the setup feels, whether that's 2:30 in the morning, whether that's 5 in the morning, whether that's 4 in the afternoon, whether that's right before market close. It's pretty much whenever. Any last questions? This was recorded, so I'll post it today. Do I ever pay attention to value area, points of control, or deviation levels? No, I don't. I just use my own markup. I don't use pivot. Pivots or anything. No, I know how to calculate it all, but I don't bother. Any new courses, videos coming to the website soon? As soon as I can get through a sentence without coughing, absolutely. I don't want a repeat of the Forex structure course where every video has me just hacking in it. It was a weird couple of weeks. I got sent to a conference in Toronto without really any warning. I got sick while I was there. When I came back, I had the flu. I wasn't in the hospital, but I went to the hospital. I had like 104.5 fever and like convulsions. That was great. So I couldn't really record anything then. And once I started feeling better, I was like, yeah, great. I'm going to record a bunch of stuff now. And then because my airwaves got my throat got so irritated with all of the fun flu-like symptoms that happened, I still haven't been able to shake it. I'd say today, what courses do I have plans? It's all, I mean, pretty much what's been planned. I have it all. It's what was all written beforehand. I don't remember. I have the agenda written somewhere. I don't have it off the top of my head. I can't do that. Someone said I need to take the whole day and just sleep the whole day and get better. I can't do that. I can't be not productive. Like, my days are ridiculous and I like it that way. Yeah, I've tried. I can't do that. I can't even on the weekends, like because we get up at 4 during the week. I can't sleep past like 5:15 on Saturday. It's really depressing. But this is the best. This is the best I've felt over the last 3 weeks. So hopefully that means that I'm able to talk soon. That'd be fantastic. All right. Any other questions? You can send them to me. I've got to go start preparing for this meeting, but thank you guys for joining. Try and do another one of these next week. Really, ideally, I do them once a week. So I'll try and do another one of these next week, and I will share the charts along with the video sometime in the next. See, this went for about 50 minutes, so it'll probably take about an hour and a half to convert, and then another half hour to upload. So hopefully I'll have it up by like 5:30. And as always, if you have any other questions, just post them in the chat room or send them to me. All right. Have a good rest of your day, guys. And I will have this up soon.